Hi Year 6 and welcome to the second virtual English lesson in which we are going to write the final part of our Bristol Bus Boycott newspaper report. So hopefully you have yesterday's part of your news report ready for you to carry on today. And you could also have, if you use the planning sheet, there is another one available for today on the website. So if you would like that, stop the lesson and download that for yourself to write your notes. Okay, so yesterday we wrote the first part. So we wrote all the way up to here. You had your headline and your date, your summary with the 5 W's, and then your main body of the newspaper, the longest part, which detailed all of the events that happened in chronological order. So that leaves today, we want to put a couple of quotes in from key people, and then we want to do a final concluding paragraph about the future, about what might happen next. So let's have a think about who we could include quotes from. Give yourself a moment to jot down the key people from the Bristol Bus Boycott story who you might want to add a quote from to your newspaper report, and then add back on for me to run through the key individuals. Okay, so the people that you might want to take a quote from are some of these people. So obviously, Guy Bailey is a really key individual because he is the person who was refused the job as the bus conductor in the first place. Roy Hackett led up the WIDC to challenge racial discrimination. These other men were also part of that group. And then Paul Stevenson, who knew Guy Bailey, and he actually organised the boycott. So he would be a significant person that you might want to have a quote from. You might also want to have a quote from Harold Wilson because he was an MP at the time, and we know that he later became Prime Minister, but at this time he was just an MP in support of the boycott, but he might be significant as well. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of examples for quotes, and then you can add them to your newspaper report. So you can take mine as an example, you can borrow parts from them, or you can write your own, but mine will give you an idea of what we are looking for. Okay, I'm going to try to add 2. So the first quote I have written, 18-year-old Guy Bailey, infamous for being refused a job, tells Grove News, "It's been a long time coming, I'm ecstatic." Now, a few things to notice in my example sentence, okay? I've got an embedded clause, information about the person added in between 2 commas to give me a bit more information about who Guy Bailey is. And then I've got my speech in speech marks, okay? So I've actually put it in as direct speech. So that's one example of a quote you could use. And here's my second. Paul Stevenson, the man responsible for initiating the boycott, said, "This is great news. It is exactly what we had hoped for, another step towards some equality in the workplace." Okay, and again, I've got a little bit of extra detail there in an embedded clause between commas to explain who my person was. And then I have got speech, direct speech, using speech marks and proper speech punctuation. Remember that comma there before your speech starts. So those are 2 examples. You can borrow what I've written and slightly change it to make it your own, or you can make up your entirely own quotes. You probably want to embed your quotes within a paragraph in your news report. So you need to take a look back at what you wrote yesterday, and you need to make sure that your quotes will make sense following what you've already written. So you might need to pop them into a short paragraph or do a sentence to link yesterday's work to your quote. Have a go at writing 2. Pause the video here, pop your 2 quotes in, and then come back when you're ready for the last part of your news report. Okay, well done on adding your quotes. We're now at the final paragraph, okay? So remember, this is our crystal ball, our future paragraph. So we need to think of what could happen next and what might the events that we've reported in our newspaper report lead on to, okay? So you could be talking about whether or not people feel that equality in the workplace has actually been achieved, and really the answer to that is probably not at this point. It's still 1963, remember. We hadn't had any of the race relations acts that we'd learnt about come in yet, so there wasn't any laws against discrimination. So there was still quite a lot to do. Remember that we know Harold Wilson, the MP, was a part of this, and he had made a promise that if he came into power, if his party were elected and he became Prime Minister, that he would do more to help. So you might want to mention that. And again, we know that in 1964 he did become Prime Minister, and in 1965 he did introduce the Race Relations Act, which did make it illegal for discrimination in some areas. Okay, so you want to hint to the kind of things that might happen. If you are using your planning sheet, you might want to jot down some ideas of the things that could happen as a result, the things that you might talk about in this final paragraph. I am going to show you my example sentence for how I'm starting my future paragraph, and then just like before, you can borrow it, you can make it your own, or you can come up with an entirely new one using mine as an inspiration. So I have written, the lift on the colour bar at Bristol Omnibus Company is another step towards equality in employment opportunities, but some still feel that this alone will not be enough. Okay, so that's how I would start my paragraph, and then I would go on, and I might talk about how people are looking for it to become a law. So people are looking for an Act of Parliament to be passed. I might talk about different people like Harold Wilson and what they might go on to do. Or I might say that at the moment people are celebrating and they are happy with what has happened. It's up to you. So you can copy mine to get you started and then finish off your paragraph with a few more sentences, or you can write your own, but you are writing one final paragraph now. So pause the video, write down your paragraph, and then come back. Well done! You have now completed all of the writing needed in your newspaper report. So well done. I really look forward to reading the finished ones. I was really happy to see people's progress yesterday and having read how far you got, and I look forward to seeing how they finished. Now that you've done all the writing, you can add in an appropriate picture with a caption to finish your newspaper article off. So yesterday we mentioned leaving space for a picture. You might have done that. If you didn't, then you might have space at the bottom. So you should be able to add it regardless. Once you've completely finished, you need to read your work back. Remember, you're looking for capital letters, full stops, checking that it all makes sense. Have you got commas where commas need to be? For your quotes, have you punctuated speech accurately? Remember, something that we keep forgetting is our capital letters for names and for places, as well as those at the beginning of your sentences. Once you are sure that it is completely perfect, then you have finished your news report and you can take a picture and email it across to me. Tomorrow, we are going to be doing an independent news report based around our book. So look out for Miss White's lesson, which is going to come tomorrow. I will see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.